Guys, so here's the solution to my hieroglyphic voodoo puzzle. Hopefully you had a lot of fun trying to solve it. So when I posted this puzzle, I gave everybody a few hints. First of all, I told them that the solution is a 64-digit private key preceded by a 0x prefix. I also told everyone that each of these squares that has a symbol in the middle corresponds to 2 digits of that private key. And I also mentioned that part of the solution was figuring out the order of these squares and then determining how to get the digits of the private key from the tick marks on the side of each square. All right, so let's get started. It was my intention that it would seem pretty obvious that there were some progressive sequences in the symbols of this puzzle. So for example, we have these lines. So we have this one here on the very bottom. It looks kind of like a checkerboard flag almost, which kind of indicates the ending. I was hoping that you would catch on to that this is the ending square here. But we also have squares like this, where we just have 3 horizontal lines and 1 vertical line. We have this one over here that's just 3 horizontal lines. This one here that's a full checkerboard, but not colored in. So it seems like there should be some type of progressive strategy to figure out the order of these squares. So I'll just go ahead and give you guys a solution. You may not have been able to see this right away, but hopefully there's multiple patterns, so hopefully you would have had to try different combinations of the patterns and get the solution eventually. So here's the solution. The first square in the image to use is this one right here. It has the lone open circle in the middle. And the person who solved this also pointed out that it's the only one that has 3 tick marks on the bottom of the square. If you look at any of the other squares with symbols in them, I mean, there's some here with 1, there's a lot with 0, but this is the only one that has 3. So that is another way to kind of verify that that's the first square. It just seems a little bit odd. All right, so assuming this is the first square, which it is, what would be the next logical square to be next in the pattern? Well, how about this one here that has 2 open circles in the middle, and then this one here that has 3? And that's correct. So we start here, we have 1 circle, this square has 2, this one has 3. After we get to 3 circles, well, we might look for one with 4, but unfortunately there aren't any. Next one in this progression will be the open triangle, which is right next to it. And that's kind of, you can almost get that by, if you imagine connecting these circles with lines, well, you form a triangle, and there's a triangle. That was the idea. And now after the triangle, we see this square has 2 open circles next to it, so you might guess that, well, now that we've made a triangle, let's start adding some circles. Well, here's one with 2 circles, here's one down here with 3, here's the one with 1. So we go from the triangle to this triangle with 1 circle, to the one with 2, to the one with 3. And now you might guess, well, once we get here, and now imagine I kind of connect those circles with a line. And you might get something, you might get another triangle, but the closest thing we have on this picture is this symbol here with the triangle enclosed by a circle. So yes, that's correct. This is the next symbol in the pattern. And then once we get to this, I started adding dots. So here's the next one. Here's one with 2 dots, with 3, with 4, and with 5. So that's kind of the progression for the first third of the squares. Now we have these darker circles. So we have 1, 2, and 3 here. Same pattern, but this time the circles are colored in. I went with a filled in triangle and then add these circles to that. And then after we get 3 of those, we go to this where we have an open triangle with a circle, and this time it's colored in to differentiate from the previous symbol. So same pattern, just different color scheme. Those are the orders for about the first 2/3 of the squares. Then for the last third, we have this first one here with just the 1 horizontal wavy line. Then we go to this square that has 2, and to this square that has 3, all the way up. We add the vertical lines, and then finally we get down to this one here that's the full 6 lines, and the checkerboard pattern is filled in. Okay, so that is the order of the squares. I hope that makes sense. Again, if you were solving this on your own, you might guess that the first one was here with the filled in dot, and then go to the 2 to the 3. You wouldn't have found the solution, so hopefully you would have tried it the other way around. Same with these wavy lines. You may have thought that that sequence came first, but my intention was to make it a little bit tricky, but to have at least a few clear sequences to where you could kind of put one before the other and try a few different combinations and hope to get a solution. And I don't think that was too hard. All right, so one of the hints was that each square corresponds to 2 digits of the private key. And I'm going to show you how that works right now. So here is the first square with just the 1 circle in the middle. And this corresponds to the 0x prefix. So somehow we have to get a 0 and an x from here. So let's just write that down as part of the solution, 0 and x. All right, so the way I do this is for the very first digit, so just the 0, I will look at the left line of the square and the top line of the square. So the left one, there's no tick marks here, and there's no tick marks on the top, so that makes sense why that's 0. There's nothing, so that's a 0. Now this bottom one, we have 3 on the bottom and 3 on the right. Now if you assume this is the first one right away, and you kind of wonder how we get 3 here and 3 here and get an x, well, I'm using the code where I'm basically using hexadecimal here. So a 1 is a 1, a 2 is a 2. You go up through 9, and as soon as we hit A, I code an A as a 10, I code B as 11, C as 12, D as 13, E as 14, and F as 15. So that's hexadecimal system. Now I just kind of expanded that to include X, which if you continued that pattern, we would set X equal to 33. So in this case, we have 3 on the bottom, 3 on the right, so we get 33. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Here's the square with 2 circles in the middle. Now we have to look at the tick marks around it. So there's 0 on the left, 1 on the right, or 0 on the left, 1 on the top. This codes to a 1. So the leftmost line will have tick marks corresponding to the tens digit of what it codes for. So in this case, that's a 0, top is a 1, so we get 1. On the bottom and right, same here, we look at the bottom first. This is the tens digit of the answer, and then the right line will have the ones digit. So this codes for 3. So we have 1, 3. So the next two are a 1 and a 3. Continuing in the progression here, we have the 3 circles in the middle. There's 1 tick mark on the left, 2 on the top. That stands for 12. 12 is a C. And then the next digit will be with the bottom line and the right line, and we count how many tick marks are here, and we get 8. So the next digit will be 8. All right, moving on to the triangle. There's 1 on the left, 0 on the top. That will be 10, which is an A. And then the next digit will be a 1. So A1. And we just continue with that pattern through the rest of the puzzle. And the final solution is this this is 66 digit long, but 64 digits plus these 2's, the 0 and the x. I think the 0 and the x helps because it kind of shows that this square has to be the first one because it's the only one that has 3 tick marks on the bottom. That was one way to solve it. You could have just guessed that this was the first one because it was one of the simplest symbols. Either way, get that. You have to try some things to figure out how these tick marks correspond to the letters and numbers. You might have to try a few things. I thought this one was a little bit tricky. I was very happy when I saw that somebody was able to solve it. So good job to whoever was able to solve it first. You received 10 bomb tokens as a prize. Hopefully you had fun looking at this. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing, and hopefully the answer makes sense. Hopefully you have fun solving my other puzzles. Good luck, and thank you for watching.